Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know if anybody is there with me.
No.
Hello.
I don't know if anybody is there.
Okay, I just checked that, and the sound is streaming. Okay, but
Oh, we are live.
Tree is apparently not with me. I don't know why.
I don't know if anybody is there. Okay, I just checked that, and the sound is streaming.
I am.
Hello, Annika.
I don't see you.
Hi, Roseanne.
This is really weird.
Hello, Terry. Hi, Mir. Hi, Raj. You can see Ma. You can see Ma. There's an echo. There's quite a big, I don't know what that, lag. There's quite a lag. It said big. Anyway, Eileen. Hello. Hello, Eileen. I don't know what the problem is here, but apparently Matri cannot hear my voice. I keep talking to her and she's not responding to me. But when I went over and looked at the download, my voice is coming through. And so I don't know what the problem is. Can somebody please type in the box if you can hear me? I can hear me downloading over here. I can hear Matri typing, but she's not responding to me.
Over here. I can hear Matri typing.
Yeah, anyway.
Hi, Swamiji.
I don't know what the problem is.
Swamiji, I can hear you.
Are you hearing me now? I don't know what to do, everybody. I guess I'm just gonna keep going, and maybe Matri will.
I am.
If somebody is hearing my voice, maybe somebody would kindly message her and tell her to thank you. She just figured it out. She needs to rejoin. This is what happens sometimes. She needs to log in again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I've been talking to you for a long time and you're not here. You're not responding to me.
I could hear you and I was responding, but you couldn't hear me, unfortunately. So then
I could hear you all along. I could hear the clicking of your keyboard. And so, yeah, apparently you rejoined.
Mm-hmm. I did.
This is what's needed. It happened the other day it happens sometimes with Leela and I when we're doing that, and you just need to restart.
Mm.
Anyway, hello, Gurvinder. Anyway. So, let me put that there. I just had this idea. This is sort of a reminder. This is off of the 7 skills. This is borrowed from the skills listed by Swami Rama. And this is kind of, can you still hear me, Ma? Are you still?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if you were going to be here to participate in the conversation or if...
I was.
Okay.
This is my favorite list.
The favorite list.
Yes. I build a whole course around it for the Dutchies because it's really my favorite list.
Course around it. Maybe you can add some life into this. I just wanted to punctuate this thing this morning. I don't think it takes a lot of conversation, but basically
because it has one of my biggest ahas that I've ever had, I think, in a sense of practice. But I'll tell you later, so I'll be patiently starting from the beginning, waiting till it is the moment.
Well, I don't know. You're probably going to have to make the moment. Anyway, the simple principle here is it's very easy to learn all sorts of techniques and methods. I want to learn more methods. I want to go to a workshop or a seminar or retreat to learn more techniques. This can happen very easily. And what we really want to do, I'm suggesting here, is that what we really want to do is to gain the underlying skill. And maybe there's better words in this, but these are the 2 words that came to me when I pondered these things. You know, Swami Rama in book Meditation and Its Practice says, you need to learn how to relax the body. You need to sit in a comfortable posture. You need to make the breathing process serene. You need to witness objects traveling in a train of mind. You need to inspect the quality of thoughts. You need to promote the useful ones. And you need to not allow yourself to be disturbed in any situation. Basically, those are the skills. But then how do you go about doing those? I need to look over here for a minute. Hello, all. And so, can everybody see that? I'll make it big just for a moment. And then make it small again. There is a big difference between... What was that?
That was a sneeze.
And I think thought of a child as being a way to hold this principle. A child may be play with toys and explore a new environment in the new world. Yet all of the play and exploring leads to development of a few underlying skills, such as the motor skills of being able to hold an object in the hand. So it's not that it's this technique or that technique, but there's an underlying skill that is learned. Oh yeah, there was a bless you, Mom.
Yeah, I saw that. Sweet.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, it's a kind thought.
Yeah, whatever that means. Yeah. I remember somebody many years ago.
There's the Dutch version.
It looks German, Gesundheit.
No, it's Dutch. But it looks very much, it's very similar indeed.
Similar to German.
Yeah, Gezondheid is with a ch, of course.
But I remember many years ago somebody saying that it came from the idea that when you sneeze like that, for just a moment, it's like your heart skips a beat or something, and it's a little bit like a fraction of a second death.
Oh.
And so, like when somebody dies, you say, God bless you.
So then that's why they're wishing you health, because Gezondheid means health. So they say health, and that's all they scream, basically.
Yeah.
They wish you a long life. Thank you for posting the link, Cindy.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I meant to do that, and then I neglected to do it. Oops. In yoga, there are many techniques used to develop skills. The suggestion here being, this is difficult. I find this difficult to find the words to say this. But in the attempt to say it, is that the techniques are not really so important. What's important is the underlying skill. So do I know how to make my breathing process serene? Do I know how to get my sushumna to be awakened so that the nostrils are balanced left and right? Well, I can learn Kapalabhati technique. I can learn Bhastrika technique. I can learn Nadi Shodhanam, alternate nostril breathing. Those are techniques. The technique of how to do diaphragmatic breathing. Those are techniques. But I'm doing all of them so that I have the ability to make my breathing calm and serene and to have Sushumna awaken. You can speak, Rojo, if you got something to say with that.
I'm just saying yes.
Oh, just saying yes. Okay.
It becomes a new default position eventually. Hopefully.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do with the underlying skill.
Mm-hmm. So it becomes naturally.
If we say how to relax the body, okay, well, we can do systematic relaxation and move the attention through the body parts. We can move the attention through the 61 points exercise. We can do those techniques. But as you were just saying, after some time, it's just a matter that I literally know how to suspend the tightening of muscles. We think that relaxation is a technique, but why do we need relaxation? Because what we are doing is holding the muscles in a contracted state.
And we've forgotten how to do it.
And we have forgotten how to simply
just be
release that.
Yes.
And so this is what we're talking about.
Like Swami Jnaneshvara says, we know how to take off, but we don't know how to land.
If I'm holding on here with my hand like this, do I need a technique to release? You say, well, release. We don't know how to do that. Coming to mind as I say that, one of the life experiences that I have is when I was living at the Himalayan Institute in Pennsylvania, I used to do biofeedback training with people. And one of the sensors that we had, it was 2 or 3, I think it was 3 little wires that would connect to the forehead. and it would measure somehow the electrical impulses going through the nerves there. And it would show up on a computer screen as a line. And if you tightened the muscles, the graph line would go up. And you release the muscles and it would go down. And I came to make this observation with a person on there. If I had a person hooked up there and I just sat there and watched what they did for like 1 minute, I could watch this thing on the screen. And if it was, I don't remember the meaning of the numbers, but there was a number sequence on the y-axis, and there was a number. If their muscle tension was around 4, where if you relax these muscles, it would go down to almost 0, be well under the number 1. I hope that's making sense what I'm trying to say to you. Imagine, imagine that this back of this card is a screen. And so there's a number 4 line here, number 3 and 2 and a 1, and here's 0. And the graph line would go like this. Okay, the graph line, time. This is a timeline, and this is the 4 through 1. If a person's stress was at 4, and occasionally it would dip down like to 1 and then come back, I discovered that person had pretty good ability. If I would say, please now just relax your forehead, that person could literally easily react. But those people who stayed up here just by watching what they were doing for a minute, if I asked that person to please relax it, they were unable to do it. There was simply no ability to release the muscle tension in here. And very, very fascinating to watch this. I noticed that the people who were most stressed with muscle tension, the people who were carrying the most muscle tension, and this is just a barometer. If they're doing it here, they're doing it here, and they're doing it here, and they're doing it in the legs, and they're doing it in the chest, all over the place. And that person who was up there, they simply did not have the ability to release the tension. I hope this is making sense, Ma?
Yeah. Very much so.
Huh?
Very much so.
Okay. And so for that person, then what was needed was a technique.
Yes.
And so with that person, I would use the tense and release method. And I would say, okay, would you please tighten the muscles in your face? And I may have to get them to do this. They were already tensed in all the muscles of the body, but they didn't know it. And so the technique that was needed, tense and release, is a form of relaxing. Tense the muscle and release. Hello, Montoya. Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Makes a lot of sense. Good. Thank you for the responding. That's helpful to have a little bit of comment to you that I'm saying this clearly. And so then this person, when I would get them to say, okay, now can you see it on the screen that you're tensing? And they would see that. And then they'd come down. So they'd go from 4 up to 7. And then it would come down to 4. And gradually, then I'd work with that person. We'd do a few sessions together. And all of a sudden, they would have an experience and they would be able to drop it down to 1 or below. And it was only then that physical human being was actually, for the first time, maybe in years, if not decades, realized, wow, I've been carrying a lot of tension in my body and I never knew it. It's just a story that I'm telling you, but I saw that happen several times, that a person who is very, very muscle tensed often does not know it. And what happens is you have tension in life. It goes back to fight or flight response, which all animals have. The human creature, and when there's an emergency, our muscles tighten so that we can run away from the danger. I learned this most from watching deer out in the field, that when they would see me, they'd get ready to run. You could see, and their ears would go perk up like this, and there's a deer sitting there looking at you, trying to decide, are you danger or not? And then when they figured out that you were not danger, the ears would go down, the whole body would relax, or they would run off. And so this is fight or flight response. And so what happens to us human beings, we have such great brains and central nervous systems. Hello, Hashim. Yeah, Rod says, my physics teacher in high school would tell us to relax the forehead when he sees wrinkles. But this is what I'm talking about, basically. But some people, if you have tension, if you have an emergency thing, you're in a scary situation, and you tense up like that. If you tense up and you have 100 dangerous inputs in a day, then that becomes your default position. And some people, after many years of stressful living, there's a chronic situation that has happened. And this is what we keep talking about in yoga. When Patanjali says yoga is chitta vritti nirodha, it means let go of all of the thought patterns in the mind field. Well, if you initially don't know that you have a lot of thought patterns in the mind field, you cannot let them go. We may not even be aware of our unconscious mind. Our body is tensed and we don't know it. And we have a lot of mental activity going on and we don't know it.
So we have to learn both phenomena in order to discern. And if we don't know them, then we can't move from one to the other, even if we would hear instructions.
Right, because we don't know. We have gotten stuck we've gotten stuck.
And then relax their body doesn't make any, it doesn't happen anything.
Nothing happens because the person, literally, I had some of the people tell me, but I am relaxed. And there, the measuring equipment is revealing no. If you say back, no, you're not relaxed because this computer says you're not. And we can all see this externally in another human being. Psychologists, if they're sharp, can be pretty good at this. They can see, doctors can see it. They can see the tension in the other person. It's like what Raj was saying, the physics teacher is seeing the forehead wrinkle. So we can see it in the other person, but the other person, if it's become a chronic situation, you don't know this. You don't know this. And we do the same thing with our breath, and we do the same thing with our mind. If we have developed a habit pattern, if Raj, bless his heart, has developed a habit pattern of thinking that who he is Raj, and he's taken on the identity of being an engineer. And I am an engineer, and I am Indian, and I'm a bright fella. And if he's really taken on those identities strongly for enough years, he's not aware of it. I'm going to try to say this without saying the name, but it's a perfect example. There is this one world political leader right now who is absolutely a crazy man. There's many of them.
Just one?
There's probably many of them. But if the person doesn't know he's a crazy man, a person can be on an absolute ego trip and not know it.
Unconscious really means unconscious.
Thank you. Unconscious really does mean unconscious. I'm going to put this back like this. And so when it's unconscious mental identities, we don't know it. A person thinks that who I am is my job. I am a so-and-so. If Rojo sitting over there really is off on an ego trip, and some of her co-workers are like that, the place where she works, some of these men are really macho guys, and I am a doctor. It's like the doctor in the movie, you know, that is, help me out here, Ma, how do you describe? We take on those identities. If
it's a status, it's putting yourself on a pedestal, but that's because
it
gives you self-worth, which is
you put yourself on the pedestal, and if you have
imaginary
on the pedestal, nice phrase, thank you. If you put yourself on the pedestal, then you're just comfortable. You're at home on the pedestal, and you may not know that you are on the pedestal, that you've done this. So that's the mental activity, and the same thing is happening with the tension in the body. So if the muscles are tight and they're chronically tight like that, you may not know it. There's a very good chance you don't know it. And in such a case, what is very, very much needed is technique. Because if you just say, you know, relax your body, yeah, Raj, don't blow on my house of cards. But we don't know that that's what we're doing. I have built a precarious house of cards identity, and I don't know it. So the same phenomenon happens at all the levels of our being. And so what you and I are trying to do is be aware that, yes, we are learning techniques. We're learning breathing techniques. We learn all sorts of asanas. This is a part of what happens with modern gymnasium style of yoga. And it's one of the reasons that it's popular, because people are stressed out and their bodies are tight. And they go to one of these classes and they're given techniques, and at the end of an hour of doing these techniques, they feel better because the techniques work.
And I think if I may interject, my big aha, this is the whole process that you've been trying to talk from, and so I'm of course the same, is that it's not about learning a new habit pattern, replacing an old. It's watching, observing what is not useful, and then literally doing nothing with it and stop doing it, in a sense. We're seizing the tense and ceasing to sit crooked and ceasing to latch onto the mind.
Yes.
That was one of the biggest, I think, ahas, like really it's about doing nothing.
Well, that's the spirit behind this list of 7 things.
Mm-hmm.
What
brilliant.
You just said, everybody, that's the spirit of it. And that's why I mentioned the biofeedback with the people, that if the biofeedback was showing that there was tension and it was up high on the scale on the computer screen, that person did not know that it was there. I mean, they can see it with their eye, they can see that the screen says that, but they have no internal experience of that. You know, Nalai says one side is judging one's own self and the other side is we are all putting others on a higher or lower platform. Well, that may be true, but while we're doing that, we don't know it. So while I think your observation is accurate, in some sense, I mean this nicely, in some sense, I think it's not relevant to what we're trying to talk about here. We're trying to learn the skill of doing nothing, as Matri just said. How do I do nothing? If I'm using my karmendriyas of grasping to hold muscle tension in my body, the thing that I'm doing is holding the muscles tight. It's tempting then to think, that's an interesting comment, Cindy. If you will notice it's a good example, because if you'll notice in the Yoga Nidra CD that I made, in the introduction, I repeat, 6 or 7 times. It's an attempt to say, Yoga Nidra is a state of consciousness. It is not the methods that lead you there. And almost nobody ever hears that. It just goes in one ear and out the other. Because Yoga Nidra is conscious deep sleep. Yoga Nidra is not a technique. And so I'm not picking on Cindy, but you said the Yoga Nidra CD is a great technique for relaxation and embodiment. For you, Cindy, it is a technique of relaxation and embodiment. For me, that's not what it is. For me, that I would never use language like that personally that tries to tell a person that this is relaxation. Now, I put on the subtitle of that thing because I had to sell the thing and put it out in the marketplace. So it's called Yoga Nidra. I use the phrase
extreme relaxation.
Extreme relaxation of conscious deep sleep. And so it was words I thought, okay, if I put there, it says some familiar language that people will like, relaxation. So I called it extreme relaxation. And I laughed when I came up with that thing. But it's extreme relaxation of conscious deep sleep. Well, it is the conscious awareness of this. It is not merely relaxation of the body. I'm going to turn this off a minute because you can't see me point here. Yoga Nidra is the conscious experience of this. A relaxation technique is how to relax the physical body. The other thing I want to say, embodying the self. Embodying the self into our physical body. I have no understanding of that concept whatsoever. Personally, I have no understanding of that concept. And to me, that concept is not related to Yoga Nidra. The Atman cannot become embodied in the physical body. It's already there. It's the center of consciousness. That's why we call it center, because it's already there. And it appears when we're talking about the traditional meaning of yoga as self-realization, this is the reason that the term realization is used rather than attainment. This is the very trap that we are in our probably human culture, but it's certainly true in our modern culture. We think that this person called me is going to attain something. This is me, and I am going to attain the Atman. And that's simply not how it works. I cannot attain the Atman. I have fallen asleep into this. So I'm not trying to bring the capital S self forward into the embodiment. I hope I doesn't sound like I'm just different. Roseanne says the difference between relaxation and Yoga Nidra became clear. Here's another way of saying it. What Roseanne just said prompts me to try this attempt. The relaxation techniques can be beneficial, and they lead you to the edge of a cliff, so to speak. You may recall in that guided Yoga Nidra, it has you go finally from here to here to here. And then is the suggestion that you empty, empty, empty. E-M-P-T-Y, empty, empty, empty. And the idea then is your awareness lets go of this, lets go of this, lets go of this, and then falls into deep sleep. It's like the techniques, the methods lead you to the edge of a cliff. This metaphor I'm about to say can sound like suicide, and it's not suicidal at all. It's like you go to the edge of a cliff, and then you have to jump off the cliff. So the techniques lead you to the edge of the cliff, and then you empty, empty, empty. In our common language, we all know the phrase fall asleep. You know, we lay down in bed, we put our head on the pillow, and then we fall asleep. Yoga Nidra means fall asleep, but paradoxically remain awake. It means fall into this level of consciousness, but don't lose consciousness. Sure. Thank you. I'm getting me a cocoa. A hot cocoa.
Nice. I already finished mine.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. She must have subliminally gotten the message from you.
Good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Thank you, you two. That's going to be great. And so this is awkward stuff to even talk about. This is the reason this that we're now talking about. Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Roseanne, and all for putting some stuff there, because this we're now talking about the spirit of reason I wanted to go through this section here on the 7 skills. And I did not have an exact idea of how to let this time here right now go. I did not have a method in mind of how to talk to you about this. I said, let's just turn the thing on. We'll start a conversation and see where it goes. So thank you for your comments and your help. So you're helping me to find some words and to be able to do that. I'm not fond of this comment at all. I'm just not. If you see that the physical body is Atman, okay, that's entirely your right to see it any way you want to see it. I mean, it's your right. It's your right to do that. And becoming aware for me and other newbies. And I'm going to say I don't like that word either. I have, over years of time, heard too many people categorizing people as beginners or newbies or something like this. I'm a newbie, therefore let's change the statement of the sages. Since I'm a newbie, I'm going to say Atman is in the body, or Atman in body is body, or something like that. It doesn't matter what is this category newbie. When I walk on a public street and I walk by 1,000 people, every one of those people is already Atman, without exception. That's what I see. I see 1,000 different people who are at their core Atman. I also see 1,000 people who have physical bodies. The life force that is in that body is what's making it move and be a person walking down the street. If the person drops dead, if the person gets hit, God forbid, by a car, and the person is laying on the road dead, who amongst us cannot see that something just left? Something separated from that body. We all can see it. We don't look at the corpse and blow air into the corpse and watch life return. It just doesn't work that way. When the physical body is dead, it is dead. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, says the Western tradition. And I do understand, as I'm saying that, I do understand the spirit of someone saying, but I'm new at this, but allow it, please, allow it to be that I don't yet have the clarity about this stuff. But anyway, please don't label yourself as a newbie. At the core of your being, you are an Atman. Help me out here, Ma. You say it in a nice way.
Yeah. No, it's the same as I have a soul. Who is the I who has a soul? The body is not, Atman is not in the body. Atman appears wearing a body. So it's...
Yeah, good example. Thank you. This is one I've asked many times people, do you have a soul? And the person will say, well, yes, I have a soul. Then I will say, now who is it who is claiming to have a soul? That means there's a me, there's a constellation of me that is a body and an ego and a personality, and I am the possessor of a soul. And we've got it backwards, so say the yogis.
Nice, he says, Yeeks, I think some things got lost in writing versus talking. I really appreciate your comments. I guess newbies I use here to those just beginning to realize we are Atman.
Yeah, okay, good. I kind of hope that's what we were saying. But
it is awkward to type, but
it's awkward in conversation too.
Yes.
All of this communication is very, very
wondrous.
Awkward. It's very, very awkward. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. But anyway, what did Wouter say in relationship to what Ma was saying about habit patterns? Yogananda wrote a book with prayers and affirmation. One sentence I remember, I have no habits.
The real I indeed does not.
I have no habits, but the habits are superimposed on the top of the Atman. Yes, and then that creates a constellation identity that is what we're usually talking about when we say I.
Yes. And so then, although it's not who we are, we have the apparent responsibility to train them and to organize them and to make them not an obstacle. Now, the water is done.
The water is going. So we use techniques like the one I mentioned with the biofeedback with people, tense and release, tighten the muscle and then release that tension. And you can feel that phenomenon, and then gradually that person will learn to be able to simply release the karmendriya, the tension that is already there. How do you sit comfortably? Well, you may use techniques. You may do a lot of easy or complex yogasanas. Constellation identity, yeah. Commonly called me.
A persona, a mask.
Yeah, a persona. And so this is why this stuff is so difficult to talk about. Because when we start pursuing the depth of what yoga is about, this applies to every one of us. When we start this process, we've had some intuition. Something leaks through to the surface that says, wait a minute, I am not who I think I am. It's reading a book, it's hearing a talk, it's a conversation over hot chocolate with a friend, and you realize, wait a minute, I'm looking for something deeper. And then we start to undo the false identities. We don't know. We're not bad people. We're not dummies. We're not merely beginners or newbies or anything like that. At the core, we are Atman, and all of a sudden, here's some troublemaker person saying, no, you are pure consciousness. Person says, no, but I'm depressed or I'm confused. No. Confused is not who you are.
I am little.
Depressed is not who you are. Tired is not who you are. Sick is not who you are. Crazy is not who you are. On and on and on and on.
Human.
That's one of the ones that's most troubling.
And it doesn't mean we're aliens.
Yeah,
because I don't know aliens.
I'm not human. Oh.
Let me know if you want it hotter.
No, I don't like this cup though. Mm-hmm. It's too heavy.
You can have this one then.
There we go.
Mmm.
Hmm.
Here, switch.
You like the big one?
You said you didn't like this one.
Right. Anyway, so whether we're talking about body, breath, or one of the aspects of mind, we use a technique so that we can do the nirodha, basically, the skill of simply dropping it.
Yes.
How do I witness objects traveling in the train of the mind? Once you know how to do it, it's absolutely, unbelievably easy to do. And in the meantime, we end up with poetic descriptions. And so somebody will write a book. You've seen it in books probably. That what this means is like, imagine you're sitting there in the mountain and you're looking at a stream going in front of you, and there's leaves and little twigs and little branches flowing down the stream. And you're watching those leaves go down the stream. It's the fall weather. It's fall now. So if you're in the mountains, you see leaves fall out of the tree. It falls into the stream and it goes by. And so it says, do this with your thoughts, says the author of the poetic book. And it's a beautiful metaphor. But for most of us, when you translate that into sitting for meditation time, it's not a beautiful, pretty, easy thing. It's frustrating because
as soon as the thought pops up, you identify with it and off you go.
And off you go. You're lost in it. And so then what do you do with the stream metaphor? It can be so frustrating that a person can spend years, literally decades, with that and never figure out how to do that. And we can end up with a trap. For example, one of the big traps we can fall into, some of you have heard me say this before, is I use the mantra as a club. Bang, I'm gonna take them and knock them away, and I'm gonna go Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om, 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 Om. Take that, you thoughts. I'm gonna blast them away with mantra.
Yeah,
and that may work a little bit for a little while. But ultimately, it's not the skill. This is the discernment I'm doing here, techniques versus skills. It's not the skill of simply not grabbing onto that leaf in the first place. Notice what happened. We all know how to do this once we see it. Notice what you do when you're out in the public place where there is that metaphorical 1,000 people. There's 1,000 people. And over there in the distance, there's two people having a conversation. Are you disturbed by that conversation? Do you go join in? Do you go sneak up beside them and listen in on their conversation so you could get sucked into their conversation? No. What do you do to get rid of that 1,000 people?
Nothing.
What do you do? What do you do, Mom?
You don't do anything.
You don't do anything. There is an art. There is a tremendous skill, if you will. There is a tremendous skill of doing nothing. So the problem is not that I'm hooked up with those 1,000 people and how do I break myself free from those 1,000 people? The answer is I don't engage with them in the first place. They're just walking down the street or through the forest or down the beach, or they're shopping. What was that store you took me into on Holland, Ma?
I brought you to the IKEA.
The IKEA, she took me into the IKEA store, and that place is crazy in there.
Yes, it's
like a rat's maze. You have to follow the arrows. You have to follow the arrows that are. Have you ever been in one of those, Roland? They literally have arrows painted on the ground, and you have to follow the arrow through the entire store, and it's like a maze. It's like when you take a maze, like in a newspaper, and you take your pen and you follow through the thing, how to get through. It's like that, only you're going through a store, and there's literally a painted arrow on the ground, and when it goes here, there's an arrow there, and it's a turn. This arrow turns to the right, and the way you're supposed to do is just follow the arrows through this whole thing. And I don't know how many people must be in that store at one time. Must be 1,000 people in that.
So if one person stops to look at a thing and decide whether to buy or not, everybody else stops behind them?
No, it's not.
No, everybody keeps going, but everybody's following the arrows. And I'm just saying that, if you saw that person that stopped to look at that thing, what would you do? Nothing. You just keep following the arrow.
Yeah.
You go into the passing lane, so to speak, and you just walk right by. That person is sitting there looking at that cup and saying, this would be a really nice cup for my hot chocolate. Do you stop and have a conversation with everybody in the IKEA store?
No, and of course they want you to get to see more and then want more and buy more. So that's why they guide you through everything. But if you're focused, you just zoom through everything and get what you want and get out.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's why we, in these conversations, we keep trying to come up with examples, because I'm wanting to repeatedly say these skills, we all already know something about them. We're living them. It's just that we don't see it in the way that we're living. So
indeed, Terry said something really nice.
So if we understand that about the 1,000 people in that IKEA store, then maybe I can do the same thing internally. Maybe I can sit there and say, I'm just observing my breath. I don't need a technique to get rid of those other thoughts that are like the people in the IKEA store. I don't need a method or a technique. I'm not being aware of the breath so I can block it away. I'm not using mantra to block it away. I keep telling you, notice what I keep saying to you, find the silence at the end of the Om. The key there is to find the silence, not to keep jabbering Om, 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 Om. If I keep talking Om, I will push these back. I'm going to take all these troublesome thoughts, I'm going to jam them back into the unconscious so that they don't come out and bother me. Om, 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 Om. Or I can use the Om to lead me to silence, which is where I'm trying to go. But what do I do about the thought patterns from the unconscious mind? Nothing. And we all already know how to do it. What's so cool about this is essentially the same skill you mentioned when we still the body. Be aware of the body and know I could move the body. Thank you, Terry, for remembering that and noticing that. That's the language I have the ability to move this body, but I'm choosing to not use this ability. I'm choosing to not move the body. Same deal. Be aware of the thought. Thank you, Terry, for spotting that and reminding of that. That is precisely the reason that I very carefully, every word in that thing is scripted, literally every word. I wrote it out on a table because I realized this problem of communicating this stuff with people. How the hell do you get somebody to suspend the use of the indriyas?
Knowing we have the ability to use the thoughts, or we just let them flit by. It sounds all so simple. And it is.
So simple. But when I scripted that, Terry, it took me about a year just to write the script for recording that Yoga Nidra CD. I wrote every word in there is extremely carefully chosen because of having some understanding about how our minds work and having compassion for people who are very bright people but we just don't know how to do this like this. So the idea came to me. I have the ability to move, but I'm not using that ability. And that idea, somewhere in that approximately year, somewhere in there, that idea popped up, and I jotted it down somewhere. And it just ended up refining and refining and refining. It's not perfect, but that's what that's about. That is exactly what we're talking about. If you do not follow the arrow, you get lost, says Nellie about the IKEA store.
Yeah, she's been there. Everyone has something of IKEA.
Child needs to have lunch. Feed the child. 2 p.m. Bye for now. Okay. Yeah, it's about
on
time
the hour.
for us to go too. Well, I hope that this is making some sense. You know, how to witness the thoughts trained in mind. Gradually, it's a skill that we end up. How do you do it? You know, we keep talking about techniques, but ultimately it means I'm going to sit here and run an experiment. I'm going to be in a public place and just notice how easy it is. Drive your car down the road or your bicycle down the road and notice how easy it is to stay focused on your own driving or your own bicycle and let everybody else do what they want to do on the road. We do that now. Take that and then internally play the game internally. Do I have the ability? I can do this. I'm going to close my eyes and let some friends come into my mind. I'm going to let people come and go and come and go and come and go. Inspect the quality of thoughts. Technique is this useful or not useful? That's inspecting the quality of thought. Gradually, as we get more and more accustomed to that, as we move beyond being, thank you, Cindy, as we move beyond being a mere newbie, gradually we come to see. We don't even have to think about it. We don't have to verbally think about it. This thought comes. I don't need to say, this is not useful. I'm going to let it go. It's just instant. I instantaneously see this is not useful. I don't even need to label it, and I just let it go. And it keeps streaming. And then here's the other thing. Sometimes when we have all those thoughts going through the mind, there's a real good one in there. There's a real gem, something we need to do. And so we promote that one. This is what happened with this 7 skills. I was sitting being quiet and thinking about what to do for today. And it was a couple of days ago, and all of a sudden it just popped into my mind, the 7 skills. And some part of me, Buddhi, inside had the wisdom to say, let's do that on Saturday morning. Let's talk about the 7 skills. It happened within the last 24 hours in relation to the topic tomorrow for Sunday satsang, which is just Matri and I will be on together. We'll just have some conversation. It popped into mind in the same kind of way. So I said, capture that. And I was in the meditation room when that happened. And I thought, no, I'll remember that. And then I realized, why don't I just dash out of here real quick and jot the words down just to make sure. Then I'm free from it. Then I don't have to hold it in my mind. So I dashed out and wrote down the 2 words that defines the topic for tomorrow's Sunday satsang. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I told Matri, but it's secret. You'll have to show up. And we'll talk about it. Not allow yourself to be disturbed in any situation. It's a skill that happens to us gradually. It's not a mere technique or method. I'm disturbed. How do I let go of my anger? Well, okay, so there are methods and techniques that people use on how to let go of anger and all that. And we say, well, I do diaphragmatic breathing. I lay on my back and do 61 points. I lay down. I've had people tell me, I lay down when I'm tensed and I play the Yoga Nidra CD. And these are using techniques to let go of disturbance. Gradually, we learn to be disturbed, and we notice ourselves. We're not perfect at it, but we look back and realize, wow, you know, I was in this situation today and this thing happened, and isn't this fabulous? Today I did not get disturbed over that situation. And you realize for yourself, wow, this stuff is working. It's creeping into my life. I did no technique to let go of that disturbance. Here showed up in front of me that troublesome person that's been pestering me for a long time. And today, nothing happened. So anyway, so these are skills, not techniques. Techniques are very, 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 very useful. Techniques with body are useful. Techniques with breath are useful. Techniques with mind are useful. But let us all remember that the reason that we're doing the techniques is so that we can gain the underlying skill. What we want is the skill, not merely the techniques. And so then here's some idea. I'm not going to try to go through these, obviously time anyway. But if you want to look at this, here's some ideas about how to run some individual experiments with each of these 7. And I think I've put some pretty good ideas in there. And then eventually allow the 7 skills to work together, like fingers on a hand. Of course, it's a hand with 7 fingers. That was just a little...
Oh, I'm doing it now. I was trying to.
Like this. Now, I'll tell you a story there. When I was in my early 20s or late teens, somewhere, I guess I was about 20, I used to work in a shoe store selling shoes. And a mother brought a child in for a pair of shoes, and she asked me if I would measure this child's foot with, you know, the instrument that measures the, and this foot was extremely wide on this little child. But the foot did not look wide. That was a real cognitive dissonance to me. It was just confusing to me. I turned, I thought maybe, well, this particular measuring thing, it measured a left foot, you turn around the other end, measured a right foot. So I thought, well, maybe I'm using it backwards. And I looked and I said, no, I'm using it properly. But whatever the size number was, the width was in letters, and it was like double E in American stuff. It was just extremely wide. And suddenly I realized what I was looking at. Both feet on this child had 6 toes. Each foot had a big toe and then 5 toes beside it, not a big toe plus 4 toes. And so these feet on this little child were absolutely beautifully structured. They were just perfect little feet. It's not like it was a club foot or something odd like that. They were just perfectly formed toes. It's just that there was one extra toe.
Nice.
Polydactyly.
Now, see, Rojo knows the name of it. It's a polydactyly. Polydactyly. See, I knew that.
And it's a dominant trait, so half of their kids are probably going to have it.
Half of the child born to that child. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, well, so it's not such a big deal, but I had never seen it. Now, why did I tell you that?
Because we were talking about 7 fingers on the hands.
Yeah, 7 fingers on the hand. That's right. It was just
a
stupid little story, and it was 6. It was polydactyly. It was, so here, polydactyly, 7 skills.
Now I see 2 extra.
And there's 8 rungs.
Nice.
And there's 4 functions of mind. And there's 5 Jnanendriyas. And there's 5 Karmendriyas.
5 kleshas and 5 states of mind. Punch. Punch it out.
Now you and I are together side by side on the screen. If I do this and you do this,
yeah,
then we've got 20.
Okay.
I got earth, water, fire, air, space. the 5 Jnanendriyas, you can have the 5 Karmendriyas and the 5 Bhutas.
Okay.
So there we got it. We got it all figured out. That's kind of silly, isn't it? So thank you all for playing. We're going a little bit crazy here, so we'll end this before you just...
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, enjoy the rest of your day. And try and maybe give a little bit of attention to the pondering the nature of skill that you're gaining from doing all the techniques that you've learned and that you keep practicing.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie. Okie dokie, all is well. All righty. So,
this was a pleasure, Swamiji.
Pleasure. Thank you,
tomorrow.
Mom, for playing. Thank you, everybody, for comments.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Roseanne. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, everybody, for comments and so on. That helps direct the where we're going with all this stuff. See you tomorrow.
Yes.
See you tomorrow. Bye, Indika. Okay. Dooey dooey. As the Dutchies would say, dooey dooey. Bye bye.